Hurricane Katrina is widely considered the worst natural disaster in United States history. A catastrophic Category 5 storm that devastated the Gulf Coast in August 2005, claiming nearly 1,800 lives and causing over $125 billion in damage. At its peak, 80% of New Orleans was underwater, including the iconic Superdome, which had become a symbol of human suffering as thousands of desperate residents sought shelter inside its damaged walls.
Shafts of light from gaping holes in the roof illuminate the scene, remnants of hell for up to 35,000 people.
What most people don't know is that before the storm hit, Saints owner Tom Benson was actively plotting to move the team to San Antonio.
Saints owner Tom Benson arrived back in town, and we asked him the question everyone wants to know: is Benson moving the team to San Antonio?
Having already halted lease negotiations with Louisiana and instructed his attorneys to explore relocation options. But in one of the most unexpected twists in sports history, this devastating natural disaster, which should have been the final nail in the coffin for the Saints in New Orleans, actually became the very thing that kept them there, transformed a franchise, and helped rebuild a broken city. Today, we're going to break down how the worst tragedy in New Orleans history paradoxically saved its beloved football team, revitalized a community on the brink of collapse, and changed the course of NFL history in ways that nobody could have predicted. The Saints' relationship with New Orleans had been deteriorating for years. By 2005, Tom Benson, who purchased the team in 1985, had been growing increasingly frustrated with the state of the aging Superdome and what he perceived as insufficient financial support from Louisiana. In April 2005, months before Hurricane Katrina, Benson halted lease negotiations with the state until after the season. This wasn't just a negotiating tactic. Benson was seriously considering relocation. Rumors immediately began swirling that San Antonio, Los Angeles, and Albuquerque were potential landing spots. San Antonio emerged as the front-runner due to Benson's strong business ties there. He owned several car dealerships in the area and had deep connections in the city. In fact, in May 2005, Benson's attorney told a San Antonio reporter that the owner was seriously considering moving the team to Texas. The Alamodome was available as a playing facility, San Antonio officials were eager to land an NFL franchise, and Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones, who held territorial rights to the region, supported the idea. The Saints weren't exactly thriving in New Orleans either. The team had struggled through most of its history, with just one playoff win in nearly 4 decades. Fan support existed, but wasn't overwhelming, and the Superdome, once a state-of-the-art facility, was showing its age. For Tom Benson, the path forward seemed clear. The 2005 season would be the Saints' last in New Orleans, and then he'd announce a move to San Antonio. But nature had other plans. On August 29, 2005, Hurricane Katrina made landfall near New Orleans, unleashing unprecedented devastation on the city. The levees failed, flooding 80% of New Orleans, and the storm claimed nearly 1,800 lives across the Gulf Coast region. The Superdome, which had been used as a shelter of last resort for those unable to evacuate, suffered massive damage. The iconic roof was partially torn off, allowing rain to pour into the stadium. Inside, where approximately 30,000 evacuees had sought refuge, conditions quickly deteriorated into what many described as a humanitarian crisis. As the city flooded, the Saints were forced to evacuate. After a preseason game against the Oakland Raiders, the team relocated to San Antonio, setting up temporary headquarters and practice facilities there. The NFL announced the Saints would play their home games in 3 different locations that season: 4 games at LSU's Tiger Stadium in Baton Rouge, 3 at the Alamodome in San Antonio, and 1 at Giants Stadium in New Jersey. For Benson, this catastrophe seemed to accelerate his relocation plans. Now he had the perfect excuse. The city was underwater, the Superdome was severely damaged, and no one could reasonably expect the team to return to such conditions. San Antonio Mayor Phil Hardberger began openly campaigning to make the Saints' move permanent, and Benson appeared receptive. The 2005 season was disastrous for the Saints on the field too. They finished with a 3-13 record, looking every bit like a team without a home. Players described the year as chaotic, with wide receiver Lance Moore calling them literally the bad news bears of the NFL. They practiced at high school facilities, with locker rooms set up in baseball dugouts and hot tubs fashioned out of garbage cans. But as the season wore on, something unexpected happened. The NFL, led by Commissioner Tagliabue, began to see the Saints as essential to New Orleans' recovery. The pivotal moment came in October 2005, when after a 21-6 loss to the Miami Dolphins, Benson got into an altercation with a fan at LSU's Tiger Stadium and shoved a news camera. 3 days later, he announced he would no longer attend Saints games in Baton Rouge, claiming he felt his family was in danger. Behind the scenes, his plans to move the team were accelerating. But Tagliabue wasn't having it. The NFL commissioner made a decisive move, appointing an 8-owner advisory committee to decide the team's future rather than leaving it solely in Benson's hands. More importantly, Tagliabue personally intervened, making it clear that the league strongly preferred keeping the Saints in New Orleans. In a meeting with Benson and his attorney about relocating the Saints, Tagliabue didn't mince words. When Benson's attorney threatened litigation if the NFL prevented the move, Tagliabue told him there wasn't a chance in hell you'll prevail, and that pursuing the case would be destroying Benson's remaining credibility within the NFL. This wasn't just tough talk. Tagliabue understood the symbolic importance of the Saints to a recovering New Orleans. In December 2005, he organized a meeting with New Orleans business leaders to gauge support for keeping the team. John Corner, a prominent local businessman who attended these meetings, later recalled, quote, "Benson was leaving. There was no BS about it. He was leaving and we did everything we could to change his mind." Tagliabue personally toured New Orleans and the Superdome with Benson on December 5, 2005, to assess the viability of returning. After seeing the devastation firsthand, Tagliabue made a bold promise stating publicly, "Our goal is to play some games in the Superdome in 2006. Many thought this was unrealistic. The Superdome had suffered extensive damage. Nearly 80% of the roof was compromised. Water damage had led to mold throughout the facility, and electrical systems were destroyed. Most experts believed the stadium would need to be demolished. But Tagliabue had found a crucial ally in Doug Thornton, the executive who managed the Superdome. Together, they formulated a plan to resurrect both the stadium and the Saints' presence in New Orleans. Thornton later recalled NFL executive Roger Goodell telling him during a tour of the gutted facility, "You know what? I think we can put it back together. I think we can have the team come play here next year." On December 30th, 2005, the Saints officially announced they would return to New Orleans for the 2006 season. Tagliabue followed up on January 11th, 2006, announcing that the team would likely play all 8 home games at the Superdome. This was a remarkable commitment considering the state of the city. At the time, large portions of New Orleans remained uninhabitable. Basic services were still being restored, and the population had been cut in half. Many questioned whether enough fans would even be present to support an NFL team. But Tagliabue didn't just make promises. He backed them with action. He assured Benson that the NFL would support him financially if the return to New Orleans resulted in losses. He worked with Governor Kathleen Blanco to secure funding for Superdome renovations and rallied the business community to commit to ticket purchases and sponsorships. Governor Blanco later revealed a crucial conversation with Tagliabue. "Paul came to me at one point in time and he said, 'Governor, if you can get the dome open, I will make sure that Tom Benson does not leave the city of New Orleans.'" With financial support promised from the NFL, FEMA, and the state, Thornton assembled a team of 850 workers who labored 6 days a week to make the impossible happen. Against all odds, on February 5, 2006, the NFL announced the Superdome would reopen on September 25, 2006, when the Saints would host the Atlanta Falcons on Monday Night Football. The renovation would ultimately cost $185 million, but the symbolism would prove priceless. What happened next has become NFL legend. The Saints, written off as a team that would struggle to compete, hired a new coach in Sean Payton and signed a quarterback that most of the league had rejected named Drew Brees, who was coming off a serious shoulder injury which many around the league questioned if it would ever heal. On September 25, 2006, the Saints returned to the Superdome for a Monday night football game against the Atlanta Falcons. The atmosphere was electric, with U2 and Green Day performing before the game. Then, less than 2 minutes into the first quarter, Saints safety Steve Gleason blocked a Falcons punt that was recovered for a touchdown by Curtis DeLoach. The Superdome erupted in a cathartic roar that some say was the loudest sound ever heard in the stadium. This play was later made into a statue, showing how important it was to the city of New Orleans. The Saints went on to win 23-3 and would reach the NFC Championship game that season, which is the furthest they had ever advanced in the playoffs. 3 years later, they would win Super Bowl 44 against the Colts, delivering the city's first major sports championship. But the impact went far beyond football. Restaurants and businesses near the Superdome saw their revenues triple during that first season back. The team's return became a powerful symbol of the city's resilience and determination to rebuild. Gina Wildman, general manager of the Allegro Bistro near the Superdome, summed it up perfectly. Our hopes and dreams appeared to be lost, but then we found a spark. When the Saints returned, we got a huge shot in the arm. The Saints didn't just stay in New Orleans, they became more intertwined with the city's identity than ever before. The team that had once been poised to abandon New Orleans instead became the ultimate symbol of the city's rebirth. The irony of this story is inescapable. The same catastrophe that Benson thought would provide his ticket out of New Orleans ended up binding the Saints to the city forever. Had Katrina never happened, Benson likely would have moved the team to San Antonio after the 2005 season. The NFL, without the emotional and symbolic weight of the disaster, probably would not have intervened so forcefully. Tom Benson, once reviled by fans who spray-painted "Tom Benson Liar" on abandoned refrigerators throughout the flooded city, eventually embraced his role in New Orleans' renaissance. He not only kept the Saints in the city, but later purchased the NBA's New Orleans Pelicans and made numerous other investments in the region. Tagliabue, reflecting on his tenure as commissioner, cited helping keep the Saints in New Orleans as his proudest achievement. When you talk about the NFL stands for two things, competition and community, I think this was the most significant thing that occurred during my years as commissioner in terms of keeping faith with the community. If you liked this video, please subscribe. We are less than 200 subscribers away from 1,000, and that is a huge goal of mine. Thank you for watching.